Hey guys, Bowie here, and this is 4 things you do awfully wrong in the safe lane and how to fix it. We're talking both support and carry in this video, by the way, so get ready to hear that you suck. Also, if you want to be featured in videos like this, make sure to follow me on Twitter so you know when I'm looking for replays. The first thing we're talking about is dumb clashes during rune time. I know dumb might be too much, but I'm tired of seeing this. In this game, the Spectre has a jungle Nature's Prophet. They lose the game. But this is a type of game where you can think that the Nature's Prophet was the reason they lost, but that's not necessarily true. As a rule of thumb, you shouldn't contest runes when the enemy has more stuns than you in that particular lane. Dota is obviously really complicated and nuanced, so there are quite a few exceptions to this rule, but in a scenario where you're a Spectre, you have no supporting lane, contesting the rune is not the brightest idea in the first place. And the way the Spectre contests the rune is even worse. Let me explain why. Axe has no stuns. So if you learn Call to get the rune, then you're actually getting some pretty big wins for your lane. The right way to attempt to get this rune would be walking in when you're 2 or 3 seconds away from the rune. So you take the least amount of damage possible while being there to try and get the rune. This Spectre though sits there for 7 seconds. She could keep hiding there and just try to steal at the right time, but the end result is Spectre being forced to use dagger twice, using 2 tangles in the cell for absolutely nothing, and now he has no means of getting CS and no support. This is a lane where he could easily last hit with creep aggro and spectral dagger on the range creep, but his decision put him in such a bad place that this game is now twice as hard, and it was already hard because they have a jungler. Really a small decision with consequences to the entire game. Even if Spectre steals the rune, their 40 gold is 1 tangle, and he spent a self plus 2 tangles, so the math just doesn't add up. Getting 4 rune is awesome, but taking too much damage or learning weird spells to get the rune is definitely not worth it. Another common rune mistake is what I mentioned with Axe getting called to steal the rune from Spectre. If you're learning a different spell to secure a 0-minute rune, you're very likely committing a mistake. In this game, the Slark, after the Earth Spirit steals the rune already, for some reason learns spells in hopes he might get a kill. And that was a very wrong assessment of the situation, but the real problem starts in lane. Instead of being able to constantly steal stats from the Penguin and dominate the lane, he has spawns. He cannot dominate the lane, Radiant gets level 2 before him, and he feeds a lot this game. Now we're going to address excessive laning. By excessive laning, I mean supports that just sit behind you too much. The job of a support is to protect cores, give vision, be in the right places, and sometimes it is hard to really measure whether your carry is safe or not. In this game, Jugger and Silencer are owning. Jug is free farming and the 2 Radiant heroes are being zoned. I guess slightly, but here's the thing, the lane is quite pushed. This same zoning position could be acquired close to their tower, making it easier for them to kill Radiant and making it harder for them to die. This was clearly the time for Silencer to pull, not only freeing up experience to the Jugger, but also getting a safer lane for both of them. What happens instead is, while Jugger is farming perfectly, yes, Sand King and Lion are getting way too much experience and even some creeps for free. Jugger has spawned this entire time, meaning the only reason Jugger dies is if he commits a mistake, so the pull was doable. Silencer just stays in the lane for so long without pulling that eventually he's higher level than the Juggernaut. You might be thinking that a support being higher level is good, and you know, it's not bad, but not at the cost of your core being lower level. Sure, early global is always desired, but his lack of experience made snowballing really hard for the Juggernaut. Look what happens later down the line. He could get a kill on the Lion if Silencer was away for maybe 1 creep wave, half a creep wave. Instead, he just chases the Lion down for no reason, loses CS, and the game eventually. Wrong skill builds. If you keep watching the Jugger, you can see that he's 3, 0, and 2. You know this death that he has? Let's see how and why he died. You probably guessed why. To start with, he had no reason to go further up here. The lane was pushing. Second of all, he had no mana for spin, which was a mistake. He should have eaten the mango and added a Blades of Attack to the inventory. Third, he did not learn Healing Ward. It makes absolutely no sense to get creating this lane. They have hours of disable on the side of the Radiant. If he's ever killing someone, it's via Blade Fury, and if he gets jumped, that's a way for him to survive and buy time, and even, to heal the supports after a fight. Despite the fact that he has no self-love and charges himself into the Radiant team instead of getting out, I still think with a nicely planted Healing Ward behind the trees, he could kill the Lion before dying, maybe even survive. Instead, he just wastes his mana. And despite the fact he doesn't kill Lion because of not being level 6, having the second point of crit makes even less sense. he's still only farming the lane in maybe one creep camp every minute, and your DPS increases so little with the second point. Healing Ward level 1 or 2 properly microed in this situation would be amazing. It would allow him to tank way more damage and the creeps take more damage to damage the tower while they fight bottom. Instead, he attacks once, and he makes absolutely no use of his siege creep. In that Spectre game, we can analyze the other side of the map, where Luna and Shadow Shaman are waiting for the rune. As Bounty Hunter tries to go for a steal, he attacks, he shows himself, panic kicks in, and Shadow Shaman thinks they might be able to kill him from 100 to 0. That's obviously false, and he starts the lane with Shackles. By the way, I think the only reason you get Shackles level 1 is for First Blood, and even then I think it might still hurt you more than it helps, unless you have a carry that has skill potential from early on, like, Ursa, Juggernaut, Monkey King, etc. Look what happens in the lane afterwards. Luna is busy farming, and, Shadow Shaman cannot zone anymore, because instead of a 140 damage nuke on a 14-second cooldown, he has a 60 damage spell that has longer cooldown, doesn't help much, he's stuck there. And 2 shocks is 280 damage. BH has 200 HP here. He would literally have that kill, but instead he gets dove and dies later on. The fourth thing we have to talk about is being slow with spending money in Faring region. Being slow with spending money in Faring region is really common in safe lane carries. They focus way too much in CS, and everything else gets forgotten. That Slark that learned Pounce at the rune dies at around 6 minutes. From minute 4, he has no regen whatsoever, and could have stopped the courier to get, let's say, another tango. Instead, he fares himself 2 items that are available in the side shop, and never uses the courier again, which eventually kills him very passively in the laning stage. The Juggernaut that did not learn Healing Ward is also to blame. He used the courier to get Blades of Attack. Whenever you're referring an item like a Wraithband, Blades of Attack, getting another region item, be it Tango, Mango, Salve, is always great. There are 10 times more scenarios where there's good payoff from spending gold on extra region than the ones where it pays off not to do so. So, what happens later? He dies. Partially because no Healing Ward, and partially because he was 400 HP in that lane. And Luna did a similar mistake as well. She fares herself the Wraithband she was missing, but doesn't bring any extra tangles or any regen. While the Salve is nice, it's an item you use when you're low in HP, and in this condition, the Luna doesn't want to use the Salve, but the Salve is useless if he gets jumped, and that's exactly what happens. So, just buy tangles. Alright guys, thank you very much for liking, commenting, and subscribing. I know what you're thinking. You're like, Bowie, where the hell is Invoker Week? And Invoker Week is gonna come back tomorrow. It's just that the videos are getting very little views, and I know that's kind of, shitty of me to say, but I'm really not in the best spot financially. So, I'm just trying to stream every day, just make as many videos as possible. And I just thought that this video was gonna be a little more useful, and the next Invoker video can be better made, so that, maybe gets more views. I'm also in talks with a high MMR streamer, and he will, give his 2 cents, maybe 5 cents about how to play Invoker and how he, thinks the hero should be played. And I guess that's it, guys. Thank you very much for being here. If you want to support this channel even more, check our Patreon rewards. You can also sub and follow me on Twitch. You can also follow me on Twitter if you want to be a part of these videos, as I said. And that's it. Have a good one. Bye.